Now, let me give you some vegetables. The vegetables, this is a really disturbing story about your right to privacy, your right to have somebody come into your house without a warrant, your right to be held out of your house by cops without being charged with anything.
Yeah, this woman comes home from an appointment with the IRS, and there's people on her porch with cops, and she finds out pretty quickly that it's CPS and police officers with them. And the cops are just all over the place. They're in the backyard. They're on the porch with the CPS. And she approaches, and here's what happens.
The reason why we're here is we got a call from the Department of Children and Families that we need to speak with you about.
Okay.
Will you give us consent to search your home?
No.
Okay.
You do not have consent to search my home.
Okay.
Tell me what this is about, please.
I'm Rebecca from DCF. This is Juan from DCF. Here's a pamphlet explaining your rights. We got a report.
Yeah, what was the report?
Is my son at school?
Yes.
A report. And all of a sudden, just because you got a report, so anybody can say anything they want.
And you notice they're
to CPS.
And you notice they're in the house already.
Well, no, they're on the porch. This is on the porch here. So all of this, she just pulled up in the driveway. She comes, opens the fence. She's talking to him as she's walking up to them. And there they are right at the front door.
Yeah, they're asking.
Can you tell me what this is in regards to?
Report. For a
Well,
report.
we had a report that was turned into Children and Families about the well-being of your son.
What about it?
About drug use in the home.
And drug abuse in the home. Wait until you hear what the report was.
Yeah.
Wait until you hear what the report was. But now we've had a report about your son and things and abuse here in the home with drug abuse here in the home.
The well-being of my son?
Yes.
Both of my children are fine.
Okay. Well, that's why we're here checking.
We get a report. We have to
You're here checking
investigate
because they're
it.
fine.
Because they're fine. Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're
Get a report.
Okay.
Hey, excuse, may I tell you something?
This is really dangerous stuff.
This is really dangerous because if I'm there, if that woman had that snotty attitude, I would say, I'm about to bitch slap that little smile off your face.
What? Oh, there's a good reaction to that.
No, I know, but that's what I would be feeling inside.
Yeah. Oh, you
because
feel
the way
it.
she's like, okay, all right, well, I'm sure they're fine, and that's why
So
we're here.
condescending.
It'd be like, screw you. Who do you think you are?
Get off my porch. Get off my
Instead,
property.
you come and say, hey, listen, I'm sure there's nothing, and I'm sorry to bother you. We have a report, and this woman.
You can hear
has
the assumption of guilt in her voice.
Guilt.
Oh, of course.
You are guilty, if 5 more minutes with this woman, and I would lose my mind.
Luckily, you're restrained enough to not.
No, I'm not.
Use
Luckily, I'm
physical
married.
violence.
No, luckily, I'm married to a very good woman who would say, honey, go
Run away.
Sit down. Go sit down.
Yeah. No, that's what you need. The Tanya, the quotient there is important.
And I think every father would, and I think every parent would. I'm so sick and tired of the overreach of this government, and to think they own my children. They're my children, not yours.
Is there a moment where you look at it from their perspective, that they get a report of illegal activity, and you say, okay, I understand that you're coming here, you're looking, and I'm going to.
And that's why, as a fellow citizen, I would first say to excuse me, could I have an ounce of respect and not smugness from you? I'm a fellow citizen. You come here and you want to search my house. No, I know my rights. Second of all, I'm innocent until proven guilty. Can you turn down your smugness just a tad for me?
No, the answer is no.
No, she can't.
See if your child is safe.
Ask you to leave my residence unless you have a warrant. You have no reason to be here.
Well, at this point in time, you're not free to go into your residence, okay?
Listen to that.
Whoa.
At this point in time, you're not free to go into your residence.
I want my attorney.
Screw you. I'm going into my residence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's not legal,
What?
right?
I
can't
so.
imagine.
I can't imagine that there's a way that you can keep
I
someone
don't think
out
so.
of their
I'd love
home
to hear from a lawyer
without a warrant.
That can't be.
Even with a warrant, I feel like it would be. Now, look, if there was some, I don't know, maybe
You
there was
can't detain me.
gunfire
No,
going
you
on
can't
inside.
detain me. Charge me.
Yeah.
You can't detain me.
Yeah, what are you going to be? Are you going to shoot me
Charge
down
me.
if I go into my house? What are you going to do?
I'm going into my house right now.
I mean, if they knew it was a crime scene, they could keep you out, right? Like if they found a body,
no. They don't have a warrant, so they have nothing.
They have nothing at this point.
They have nothing.
Yeah,
they're applying the rule as if it was a crime scene, which again goes to your point of them assuming guilt.
Yeah.
I again, if they said that to me, I'd say, "Excuse me."
Gets bad too when the sergeant gets there.
You better charge me, and you better make damn sure you're right.
Because at this time, we can't guarantee the safety of your child. Okay?
Why?
He's still at school right now.
Right.
But he'll be coming home soon. And we want to make sure that he comes home to a safe house.
So the kids are not even there, and she still can't go into her house. They're not there.
Right. Well, you want to guarantee the safety of my child? He's still at school. You should go there if you want to guarantee his safety.
Right.
Are you the sergeant?
I am.
So this guy just arrived.
And she's being very restrained.
Yeah, she is.
Well, I rent the house here, yeah.
Okay. And you're videoing me?
I am absolutely videoing you.
Okay. You're not free to go in the house until we get a search warrant. And once we get the search warrant,
Can we stop here for a second?
When you get
Can
the
somebody
search
show
warrant,
this woman a damn ounce of respect?
please.
No, they don't.
Somebody. I mean, you own a house? Okay. Well, you're not allowed to go in. Can you just say, "I'm sorry, ma'am. How are you? It's a tough day." Because you come up and say, "Hello, ma'am. I'm Officer so-and-so." Yes, officer. Can you help me here at all? I mean, you want somebody to feel like you're on your side. The cops are protecting the state, not the citizen here. They're protecting the state.
Are you videotaping me?
Yeah, you videotaping me? Yes, sir, I am, because I just don't know what the hell is going on. I want to make sure that there's a record of all of this. I understand that is absolutely your right. Now, listen, if it is indeed, she's not. Now, listen, here's the thing. The law states blah, 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 blah. But they don't know the law.
Right. I mean, I think, if you want to take the other side of this a little bit, I think that typically when a police officer is being filmed, it's because typically it's an adversarial situation.
Bullcrap.
Not in this case. That's for sure.
Bullcrap. No. I mean, it has been that way. It has been that way in the past.
But she's not filming it because she thinks this is going great, right?
Right,
like,
I know that.
She's trying to make sure everything's on record, and she's well within her right and doing, I think, the right thing here. But it's possible when he walks up, the niceties don't come out of his mouth because he's all of a sudden on guard, thinking, "All right, what's going on? What's she trying to do?" I'm not saying that they're doing the right thing here, but I can kind of understand.
It is. They just in New York, they just put a sensitivity training session together for the cops there. And do you know what one of the training tips is? They have 7 rules they now have to remember. One of them is judge the citizen innocent until proven guilty. What? And this is an example of it.
Yes.
Both of these people are treating her like she's some criminal. She's at her house. Somebody made a charge. And again, wait until you hear the charge. Wait until you hear what started this.
We're free to leave at this point, but we're securing the house. We're going to get a search warrant.
How is this legal?
Well,
You can't let me in my own home without a search warrant.
Right.
We are going to secure it because we believe that there's evidence inside that house, specifically marijuana. All right, and once we get that, and then we're completed.
Based on what?
Once we get that.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Once
Really?
we get that.
Doesn't matter. Why? Based on what, he says. She says, based on what?
Like, why do you think there's marijuana in the
why
house?
do you think there's marijuana? Doesn't matter. Of course it matters. What are you talking about?
Now,
That's why you need a search warrant.
Now, I can understand, obviously, anonymous tips they don't give you. Well, it's because of your neighbor, Bill. I mean, I can understand them not saying that, but you could say a complaint came in or something, give you some indication.
Complaint came in, and that's what the search was. The judge is looking at that evidence right now.
So you want to hang out here, you want to leave, I don't care at this point, but you cannot
I don't
go in the
care.
house.
Listen to this. This is a fellow person from Kansas. They're both living in Kansas. They're both citizens. And the cop is saying, "I don't really care what you do. Basically, your house is ours."
That's his attitude.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm not one to use the F word, but the F word would be flying a lot.
And, of course, that would not help the situation at all.
No, it would not.
She's handling it very well.
She'd probably be tased at that point.
But she's not. She's handling it very well.
Wait a minute. Let's not make me look like the radical hothead here. How would you
I'd be pissed. I'd be out of my mind.
I'd be out of my mind. Our wives
I would not be handling it like she is.
Our wives would be handling it like she is. We would not be
sure
handling
mine would.
No way.
I'm not sure
Oh,
mine
yeah,
would.
yours would.
If they're concerned
would be her head. She'd have a bloody nose.
Yeah,
from
I
being
might have to
slammed down on
restrain
the
her.
cruiser. Her face would be slammed down on the cruiser several times. Boom.
Now, look, there's an argument here to be made. Like, let's say you're going to a known drug house, right? And there's lots of drugs
where
in
you've
it.
had problems
You've had
in the
problems
past
before, blah 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 blah. Now, if
it's not the case here.
if you're showing up to search it, you realize as an officer that the guy who comes in and doesn't let you in the house is going to go and flush all the drugs down the toilet or whatever would happen. So you can see how there would be a limitation to stop someone from going into a house at that point. But that happens when there's a warrant. Mm-hmm. You can't stop them before you have a reason to go into the house.
That's what I would think.
That's crazy.
No, you don't go to the house until you have a warrant.
We need to get a lawyer on the phone and find out about this, because I think this is wildly illegal.
Plus, if they cared about, if their first priority was the safety of the child, why are they saying it's okay for her to leave and he's at school? She should be detained too. Really, I mean, if you're on their side, they're saying we're here for the safety of the child. You can't go in the house. Well, if she's able to leave, she could go get the kid.
that would be hilarious. She just goes get the kid and they go to Disney World.
Where have you been? Me and the kid been smoking dope in the park.
Glenn Beck.
The Blaze Radio Network. You're listening to the Glenn Beck Program.
Hey, don't forget, tonight at 5 o'clock, The Root, the Christian Holocaust. Don't miss it. You can learn more about it at theblaze.com/The Root. Send that to your friends. Facebook that, tweet that. Make sure you watch that tonight at 5 p.m. only on the Blaze TV. The Root, the true story of the Christian Holocaust, the true story of the 100th anniversary of what happened today, 100 years ago, the Armenian genocide, and why it is important for today. You'll understand tonight. 5 o'clock, The Root, only on the Blaze TV.
We've got 38 seconds left on this story where she is filming the cops and CPS at her door. They won't let her inside the house. And when we're going to tell you why they were suspicious of her in a second. It's unbelievable. But the cops are there on the porch. The sergeant is there now telling her that she has no right to go into the house.
Department of Children and Families is there protecting the children.
Again, no warrant.
Right.
They're just doing this on their own.
A report.
Right.
It is my home.
It doesn't matter. There's evidence in there that you could destroy. So everything that was in the house is being secured at this point for a search warrant.
You can secure a house for a search warrant before you get one?
I don't think so.
We got to find out about that.
Dewey is 3.5 hours.
You're not allowed in my backyard.
Yeah, he is.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
It is not public property. You don't have a warrant.
It doesn't matter.
What is your name?
It doesn't matter. They don't have a warrant. The Constitution doesn't matter. He keeps telling her that. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We can do whatever we want. That's the attitude here. And that would drive me out of my mind.
Is that true? Like, can you go into a yard?
No, it's my property.
So. Right, but you can walk into a front yard. They wouldn't necessarily.
If you can see something wrong,
mm-hmm.
I think it is.
Yeah, then you
see
can
something wrong. But you can't go in and search the yard.
People can walk up to your front door and knock on it, and there's obviously access.
But I'm not going through the stuff on your porch,
right, or your backyard that's not visible to the road.
Right.
I mean, that's what I would think. But.
Crazy.
Name again?
Sergeant Chase.
I want to help this woman sue.
Yeah, I know.
Boy, I want to help them sue. Especially when you hear what this is all about.
Now she just doesn't
know what to do.
So I mean,
okay, so they're there for 3.5 hours.
Waiting for the warrant.
Okay, they find medicinal marijuana oil.
Yeah, cannabis oil.
Cannabis oil, okay? And it was legal. It was all legal. When we come back, we'll tell you the rest of the story. Who ratted this family out? How did the police and Department of Children and Families show up at this house? Oh, wait. Next.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
The Blaze Radio Network.
Online, in your pocket. Find out all the ways to listen at theblaze.com/radio.
We're telling you the story of Shona Banda. She is a woman who has just moved from Colorado to Kansas. She lives in Kansas with her 11-year-old son. Her 11-year-old son, they live together in this home. You should know that Shonda has Crohn's disease. If you know anything about Crohn's disease, it's extraordinarily painful. It's an awful disease. Anyway, the police show up at her house and they say, will you let us do a search of your house? And she's like, no, you're not going to do a search of my house. And then they tell her, well, then you can't go back into your house because there's evidence in your house and you'll destroy it. And she's like, what are you talking about? The Department of Children and Family is here and we're worried about the safety of your kids. What's wrong with my kids? Nothing. They're fine. They're at school, but you have to stay out of the house now. Well, you don't have a search warrant. We're getting one. 3.5 hours later, she's waiting on her porch with police and Department of Children and Families. She's waiting on the porch for 3.5 hours. They get the search warrant. They search her house. They find that she has 2 ounces of medicinal cannabis oil. She obtained it legally. It's for her Crohn's disease. Kansas, you don't have the right to have marijuana. She lived in Colorado.
Does cannabis oil qualify as marijuana?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know. Okay, but she obtained it legally, and she needed it for her. She's not giving it to her son, and she's taking it for her Crohn's disease. Okay. So where did this complaint come from? Banda's 11-year-old son was at school, and they were having a debate about medical marijuana. And he had argued in favor of marijuana at an anti-drug presentation. The school decided that they should call the state child protection agency, and that's all they had. That's it.
So five police officers and CPS show up.
There's more. Temporary custody has already been granted her ex. She's lost her children, and she could lose them permanently. No criminal charges have been filed.
Oh my God. Holy crap! This is a bad one.
Really bad.
I mean, so did the kid say, look, I think it's safe. My mom uses it. Is that the type of thing they took?
Doesn't really say
doesn't
what
matter.
he said.
Doesn't
He just
matter.
defended it. He just defended marijuana.
He's using his First Amendment to speak out, and the frickin' spies at the school decide that my kid is in trouble because they're with that person. Oh, my gosh.
I mean, especially when in a situation where you're encouraging the child to make his best arguments in favor of a mythical argument you're requiring him to be part of.
Well, let's just say it's an anti-drug presentation. Let's just say that let's just say he was sitting in the bleachers and he was like, pot's dope. Let's just say he's saying that.
Right.
Even if he said don't call the Department of Children and Families.
Even if he said pot's dope, my mom has some at home. Does that allow?
No, here's what happens.
Even at that
point,
call
the mom. You call the mom and say, hey, Mom, your son was screaming pot's dope, and mom smokes it all the time. And you have an adult conversation. You have an actual human being to human being conversation. And then if you're like, you know what, I think this lady's a drug lord, then you call.
It's pretty bad because CPS or DCF or whatever they call it in Kansas has almost unlimited power. Once they're involved, there's almost nothing you can do. You're almost powerless against them.
I'm about to go all libertarian.
You're about to go all libertarian up in here?
What's up, Mike Racka?
I'm
about to go all libertarian. I am about to cross the Rubicon on this. Legalize marijuana. Legalize it.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Wow.
You will be.
You
will be.
No, I'm not. I won't ever be there.
This is a firstie for you.
You will be.
You will be.
Wait a minute. We need to
The way to stop this is legalize it.
Well, they would do it with the next drug then, right? They'd still be showing up at the house.
Stop it. You know, people drink liquor over in Italy, and at 4 years old, you're drinking a glass of wine, and the alcoholism rate's nothing like ours.
I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. It's going to stop. What I'm saying is there's still going to be these situations where police officers do these sorts. I don't think it solves all of this, as you said, but I think it does probably cut down on it quite a bit. Right? I mean, I might encourage other things.
I think the problem here is not whether marijuana is legal. I think the problem here is the oppressive agency of CPS or DCF.
I agree with that. But however,
some police agencies that get out of control and become all authoritarian for no apparent reason.
Do you know why when you're approached at a blockade, why they say don't open your car window? Talk to the police officer from behind the glass. Do you know why? No, we've talked about it because
they say they can smell.
They're sampling. They're sampling the air. We know they're sampling the air. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the other reason is because all they have to say is, "I thought I smelled it." If your windows are closed, they can't say that. If your windows are open, all they have to say is, I swear to you, I thought I smelled dope. Soon as they say they thought they smelled marijuana, they can rifle through your car. They can throw you up against the hood of the car. They can do all of it.
Well, I don't have anything wrong in my car. There's nothing going on. I don't care if they go through my car. That's the attitude.
Thank you, Lindsey Graham, for dropping by.
The attitude.
I don't care. Go ahead.
I don't care. Let them.
Go ahead.
What are you doing wrong in your car? You care if they go through
let them have access to my phone camera.
Whatever.
What do I care? So what? They're watching me in these really icky, disgusting porno tapes that I would be making.
Because what's happened here is a major national development. I would say it's a very big newsworthy event if this is what you're actually doing. If Glenn Beck is coming out on national radio and saying he is now in favor of marijuana legalization for recreational use, that is, I would say, a news story. Is that what's happening right now?
Oh, you're making me decide?
Yeah. Well, I thought we should, because if you throw it out here like this, we're going to get, everyone speculating on what you supposedly believe.
I think I am.
And let me ask you this.
You might want to reconsider and then reconsider your reconsideration.
I'd like you to reconsider.
I've considered it.
And I'm double down on your reconsideration.
I think... I don't think that's the answer. I don't think legalization of marijuana is the answer here.
Well, I don't think the time that is wasted on frickin' man.
Well, it's certainly not a good reason to make it legal to solve this situation or situations like it. There's a much larger issue going on here, obviously. It's not just police officers doing things that are wrong. I mean, there's much more to the drug trade.
Hold on. We got John Whitehead, constitutional lawyer from Rutherford. He is the best. John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Okay. We're coming back to this, though. Don't ask. You're not getting out of this.
I know. So, John, the woman in Kansas, well, let me just ask you a couple of quick questions here. Can a police officer or Department of Children and Family, if they don't have a warrant, can they come to your house and say, we want to search your house? And if you say, no, you're not searching my house, show me a warrant, can they then say, you need to step outside of your house, you're not allowed to go back in until we get a warrant?
No, I would say depends on who's defending the case, and we've actually tried to contact her and been unable to do so. No, the Fourth Amendment requires that you have to have some kind of specific evidence of criminal activity. That's called probable cause. And the Fourth Amendment is the key to our Constitution. It prevents police-state activity like this. So,
John, is a report, they say they had a report that something was wrong in the house. Well, is that enough to keep you out of your house?
Report. I mean, the Supreme Court just ruled you have to have specific reasons to move in terms of probable cause. It just ruled that a couple of days ago. So there is precedent out there saying that you're not supposed to be doing these things. If so, then everything the Founding Fathers gave us. I mean, James Otis, the great colonial lawyer, I have a quote in my new book, Battlefield America, where he says, here's what the British are doing. They're crashing down doors. They're coming into our houses. They're throwing us on the floor and those kind of. That's an actual quote. When I read it, I said, oh, my God, he's talking about SWAT team raids and what the police are doing today. But these are happening routinely. There's 80,000 of these kind of weird raids happening across the country annually now, and people are getting shot, dogs are getting shot, babies are getting burned. So the only way you prevent that is for the police to follow the Fourth Amendment. In other words, they need to go get a warrant. What the Fourth Amendment says is if you have a reason to believe someone's committing a crime and there's not an emergency, in other words, someone's not holding a gun to someone's head, you go to a judge, you argue your case, you get a warrant.
Is there an argument, though, from the police's perspective to say, because this is what they seemingly said in this situation, which is if we let you go in there and you have all these illegal drugs, before we have the warrant, you're going to flush them all down the toilet and there's going to be no evidence.
Sucks to be you, doesn't it, officer?
Well, that would mean that anybody charged with anything, they order you out of your house and do that. If that happens, then you might as well take the Fourth Amendment and the Constitution and throw it away.
Oh, you hadn't heard? So we did that.
Yeah, we've already done that, John.
We've already done that. Yeah, I have friends who used to say that the Fourth Amendment's on life support. These are constitutional lawyers now are saying it's dead. But here's the thing. When you have a kid mention something at school, is that enough to go drag a parent out of the home? What if a kid says,
way.
Hey, what if he said, hey, and he's just joking, the other night my dad just hit my mom upside the head and she enjoyed it. Is that enough for the police to go to someone, order them out of their home, and go and search their home?
No, kids say
but they
everything.
would.
They say all sorts of crazy
stuff.
They would do it.
Because the courts overall have given them the go-ahead, and once this happens, they're going to do these kind of things. I mean, this is the case that should go all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court just say, no way, because if they allow this to happen, and I will say the other thing, it's the end of private property. Who owns that home? Is it the police or is it her?
Exactly.
Well, when she said, when they were on the
guys, beat it.
When they were on the
get off my property.
They were on the front lawn and in the backyard, and she said, "You can't be in my backyard. Get out of my backyard. You don't have a warrant yet."
Get out of my yard, yeah.
Right.
They shouldn't even be on her property unless there's some kind of danger or they have a warrant.
Or they can see, or if you could see something in plain view, you could go on, right?
Reason that's called probable cause.
She should be able to order them off the property, and they'd have to go.
About medical cannabis, or
that's crazy,
unbelievable.
It's crazy.
If that's probable cause, ladies and gentlemen, then we do live in a police state. I'm arguing that we do live in a police state. And if we put up with this kind of stuff, I would say the citizens of that town should have their picket signs. They should be down at City Hall's homes.
John, can we ask you to hold over to the top of the hour? Because I'd love to talk to you about your book, Battlefield America, The War on the American People. Or should we schedule another time for you? Do you have time today?
Yeah. You mean in just a few minutes?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll hang on.
Yeah, okay, so you hang on just a second, and we'll come back. At the top of the hour, we'll have John, and he's been fighting these battles forever, and he has done extensive compiling of what is really happening in America. And when you hear what's really going on, it will blow your mind. Blow your mind. This is only just one of these. Like he said, 80,000 of these are happening every year. Are you even hearing about them?
Listen online for free at glennbeck.com.
The Blaze Radio Network. Glenn Beck.
All right, John Whitehead is going to be with us at the top of the hour.
You're listening to, by the way, Glenn Beck, the nation's leading pot advocate.
That is good to.
I don't know if
I would call me that.
No,
it's not official, right? You're not.
I don't know. I need to discuss it more. I need to think it out a little bit more.
Sometimes, every once in a while, and I'm saying it's rare.
It's really rare.
But We've been known
occasionally,
on really rare occasions, to fly off the handle a little prematurely.
Yes,
But
when you get worked
but
up,
it's usually
like an old axe handle.
Wait a minute, it's usually in the right direction. I mean, it usually is in the direction that I'm headed.
It's usually a long time coming, too. And I will say, there's been indications of this, but I think we need to break down this policy a little bit before we make it official.
You know what I'd like to do? Here's what I'd like to do. Next week, you get the best pot advocate and the best guy who says, no, pot's not right.
I like this.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have them make their cases. We'll work through it.
In the meantime.
So next week, I may be America's pot advocate, leading pot hero.
We have a constitutional expert here, though, who's saying that this wasn't done properly. So, I mean, that's really the issue, right? On this particular situation, you can't be sending CPS or DCF or whatever your agency's
it's a problem
called,
with the school
and the cops to say you can't come in your house right now. We don't even have a warrant.
Here's the problem: we are all having to be absolute constitutional experts now.
Yeah, because the cops
the cops don't know, and so you're sitting there arguing with the cop. And what the hell are you going to do when you argue with the cop? You're like, no, officer, that's not what the Constitution says. Yeah, it is. Okay, well, that's a very good point you're making there, sir. But no, it's not.
They're not trying to give you the breakdown.
They don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't care.
And of course, these guys every day, average day, they probably go into places like this all the time, and it is true
they do.
99% of the time, and the guy's lying 99% of the time. But that doesn't mean you don't respect the Constitution. You don't roll over those rules because you're usually right. That's not
those
okay.
rules protect cops as well.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do.
They've already taken this lady's kids. I'm outraged.
I'm outraged. By the way, she's got a GoFundMe page, doesn't she?
She does.
Yeah, see if we.
She does. We'll have to get the details on it.
Yeah, see if we can get the details on it. Her name is Shona Banda. She's from Kansas, Shona Banda. But somebody started a GoFundMe page to help her out. More in just a second. Battlefield America, John Whitehead. Next.
You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
The Blaze Radio Network.
What you're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck program.
I had constitutional expert and author of Battlefield America on my program, I think 2 weeks ago on television, and it was one of the most frightening hours I think I have spent because he knows what's going on. He is actually an attorney that is defending, with the Rutherford Institute, defending these outrageous overreaches by the federal government and the local police and what's happening. You know, what brought this up was last hour we're talking about a woman in Kansas. The cops, bust down her door, and she's like, whoa, where's your warrant? They don't have a warrant. It's the Department of Children and Families. They keep her out of her house, say that she can't go in there until they get a warrant, which is unconstitutional. They say that they had a complaint that her children were in danger and that there was drug use in the house. As it turns out, what the complaint was a teacher heard her son in a drug debate or presentation make a defense for medical marijuana. Mom is on cannabis oil for her Crohn's disease. So the Department of Children and Families is called by the school saying, we think there's a drug user in our school. We think this child is in danger. She has lost, even though it was all legal, she has now lost custody of her son. Is this right? And this is only one case. John is here to tell us about Battlefield America. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How long have you been doing this?
About 40 years.
And how bad is it getting compared to even 10 years ago or 15 years ago?
I would say in the last 20 years it's zoomed, especially after 9/11. It's moved quicker under Barack Obama with all here's what people have to understand. Technology is moving so fast right now. In a couple of years, drones are going to be doing that job that happened to the lady in Kansas. They're going to be arriving, floating overhead. The police are going to be there. That's how fast things are moving. I mean, it's frightening. As Judge Napolitano, who endorsed my book, said after he read the book, he had trouble going to sleep. We're up against 80,000 SWAT team raids a year where they're crashing through people's door. The recent case in Ventura, California, where the police, a mother heard something outside. She opened the window and she saw a policeman staring at her with a rifle. They surrounded, came in the house. He says, please don't do anything in that room. My baby's in that room. They threw a flashbang grenade in and burned the kid. There's a mentality out there with government officials generally, health and social services, social workers, which we deal with a lot. They're very much trained to be very, very aggressive, ferret out the wrongdoers. But many times the so-called wrongdoers are people that used to be just normal parents, like the mother we defended in Florida who let her kid walk down a half a block, basically a half a mile on the playground. He drove by it every day. On a Saturday afternoon, she was cooking dinner. Police saw him in the playground, picked him up, put him in the back of the car, brought him home, didn't tell the mother he was in the back of the car. When they came to the front door, they started talking. She started crying. She thought something bad happened to her kid. The kid sitting in the back of the car. By the way, he had a cell phone. He and his mother were contacting each other. He's freaking out. He comes up, and they handcuff the mother behind her back on the front porch. Kid sees it, starts weeping, and says, "Mommy, this is my fault." $5,000 fine, 5 years in prison she was charged with. We swooped in and got everything dismissed. But the point is, these are parents who, Glenn, I don't know about you, Glenn, but I walked 2 miles to school and home from school when I was in grade school.
Oh, easy. Yeah. We talked about this with a woman last week. Where was she? There was another woman last week that let her child or two children in Maryland.
Yes, saw the case.
9 and 6 or 10 and 6 walk. Literally, she dropped them off literally 1 block away at the park. When the kids didn't show up, the Department of Family and Children and Families had swooped in, taken the kids. She didn't get them back until 11 o'clock at night, and she's freaking out. When I was growing up, if there was a concern, they would have said, "Hey, where are your parents?" My parents, they're at home. And if it was a block away, the cop would have walked them home.
Well, the key issue here is who's the parent. More and more the government's becoming the parent. They assume they're the parent. They can dictate to kids what they learn, what they say in school, even the words they say. If the parents say the wrong words, parents are being disciplined. We actually see the cases. So that's one big issue we're dealing with is the state now has decided that it's going to be the parent. But that's all part of the move that I see in terms of how the government's reacting to us. The government does not view us like they did, let's say, 30 years ago, which is people with some amount of respect. I see most government officials dealing with today slamming veterans face down, taking them out of their homes because of Facebook posts. We've had cases like that.
Explain that one.
Well, the case was a fellow named Brandon Robb, 26-year-old Marine, served in Iraq, Afghanistan. What he did was, he saved people's lives, troops' lives. He took mines out of the ground. He was a mine diffuser. And so he went over there. He came back, and he was upset with President Obama. He's a 9/11 truther as well, which will get you in a lot of trouble today because Janet Napolitano in a memo said that's an extremist that has to be watched. And so Brandon opposed Obama's executive orders, Bush's executive orders. On a Saturday morning, he had just gotten through jogging. He heard a noise outside. Being astute, he walks to the front door without his shirt on. He just got through jogging, and there was all these guys rushing toward his house in black outfits and plain clothes. Come to find out, it was the local police working with the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and the Secret Service. And he opens the door and says, "What's up, guys?" And they say, "We're concerned about some of the things you're saying on Facebook." They asked him to step out. When he did, they handcuffed him behind his back. Brandon all the time is saying, "What did I do? What did I do?" They take him and slam him against the fence and rip his back open. When he gets to the police station, he asks for a bandage. They put a prison shirt on, which he said stuck in the cuts and hurt very, very badly. They put him in a prison cell. A psychiatrist gave him a 5-minute interview and said because of his 9/11 views and because he paused, this is a 5-minute interview, he had a mental problem. They put him in a mental hospital for a week. We had to file a lawsuit to get him out.
Oh my God.
That's a veteran. That's American.
Wow.
Now we're getting these calls.
Now, wait a minute. There's more to this story, John. At least that you told me that if I have the story straight, unless it's another one, they were about to inject him with drugs.
He called me on the Thursday before we got him on a Saturday. He said, John, I'm really frightened. And this is a Marine, 6'4" Marine who's built like, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I said, what's got you scared? He says, there's a psychiatrist here who says he's going to brainwash me and force medications on me. And I said, and the psychiatrist is listening on the phone as he called. And I said, well, you tell that guy that, hey, number one, you're violating the law. You can't force medications in most states without a court order. And number two, we're going to sue that guy when this case, and we filed a lawsuit. We're in federal court with the case now. But
wow,
yeah, that one. And by the way, Glenn, there's 1.5 million of these so-called civil commitments that happen each year in America.
What does that mean?
That means a board of social workers and psychologists. If someone's about Facebook pages or neighbors complain about them, they meet and decide whether or not this individual may be a danger. And the police go get him and take him into a hearing similar
1.5 million Americans every year?
Civil commitment. In Virginia alone is where this fellow resided. Where I reside, there's over 20,000 a year, civil commitments. And what was key here is his mother called us, and I talked to her. She was crying. I actually called the police station and asked what he had done. The police chief said to me, he said, he's done nothing wrong or illegal. I said, but you handcuffed the man behind his back. He goes, we're just concerned about his Facebook post. These are civil commitments decided by social workers and psychologists in Virginia. In other states, it's very similar.
So, John, I feel the same way I felt last time I talked to you.
An NSA agent of 20-some years met with me last year. He was passing. He likes what we do, my work, and he said, I just want to tell you we're following the Soviet model. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, you're going to see more people detained in mental hospitals. That's what the Soviets did. And then he said, the word Homeland Security, by the way, is a Soviet term. I didn't know that until he told me that, and I researched it. It's true.
Okay, so, John, what does the average person do? How can we help? What do we do?
Well, education precedes action. I mean, most Americans are going to have to start studying the issues. They're going to have to read, books by me and others who are talking about these issues, get educated. The federal government does not listen to us. There was a recent study by Princeton and Northwestern University that concluded unanimously, basically, that we live in an oligarchy now. There's a moneyed class that runs the country, and the average voter has little impact on the federal level. So what I urge citizens to do is get active locally. Get down to that city council who's sitting there. When somebody, like this, what happened to this woman in Kansas, the city council should bring those policemen in and instruct them never do that again unless they do it legally. Form civil liberties oversight committees, I'm telling people. Get your neighbors together. In fact, Brandon Robb's mother has now, I've talked to her, she actually has a phone thing she does every Saturday with about 20 people, and they're watching the community now. That's a good thing to do because then you don't have to travel. You can email back and forth. But if you email, I'm just warning people, the government reads all your emails now, so they'll know what you're doing. So get active locally, get your picket signs. You can make a local government can say no to the federal government. They can say no to a state government. It's called nullification. In fact, Thomas Jefferson said nullification is basically the basis of freedom. Local government governs. You know them. You're next to them. That policeman, by the way, in your community, local policemen, they should be local policemen, not federal troops. And we're seeing more federal troops now moving into communities and working with policemen.
Well, we're seeing, I mean, geez, I live in a town that literally has 800 people. 800 people in this town.
Uh-huh.
They've got an MRAP.
Yes.
For what?
Well,
what do they have an MRAP for?
Your safety. Florida need 36 grenade launchers, okay, and 47 MRAPs.
Who has that?
In your state of Texas, I think they have 74 MRAPs and $24.3 million in Texas. $24.3 million worth of aircraft equipment. They haven't designated what it is, but I'm sure it's Black Hawk helicopters and those kind of things. So your local police generally, and you know, we talked about when I was on your program, and I detail it in the book, they're basically now federalized. They get all their equipment from the federal government, Stingray devices which fit in their car and they drive by your house. They're fake cell phone towers and draw all your information off your cell phone. I don't know if you saw this, but St. Louis just announced they're going to have real crime time centers, which is a big room with like 8 plasma TV sets. They connect to your cell phone. Wherever you drive, they can track you now. If you're going to see a psychiatrist, you're going to church.
Okay, I'm going to go through
another inappropriate place. They're watching everything you're doing. They're called real crime time centers. People should look that up. That is frightening.
John, thank you.
Everything you do, though, 2 billion emails a day that NSA downloads, and they admit to hacking into 160,000 Facebook pages a day. What in the world? But let's go back to the Fourth Amendment we talked about earlier. The Fourth Amendment says don't do surveillance on American citizens unless you have probable cause. So they're undermining the Fourth Amendment totally.
Okay, John, I'm going to go because I think I'm going to just wet myself if I don't hang up the phone.
Back.
Now.
I mean, listen, I've seen some communities have actually sent the MRAPs back. Citizens have stormed the meetings and demanded it. Politicians count numbers. You know that, Glenn.
The name of the book is Battlefield America, The War on the American People. I highly recommend that you read it. This is a guy who has been in the courtroom battling this for years and years and years and years. And on the front lines, John Whitehead, Battlefield America, available wherever books are sold now. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate
it. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Bye-bye. Was I right?
About what?
Him?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I knew that, though. I knew he was...
It would just make you ill.
Yeah.
Make you ill.